My name is Vanessa Leck, and today's video is going to be about a really heavy, hard-hitting topic. Many of my videos are, so it's not really much of a deviation, I suppose, but this is going to be, a little different. So I want to do several disclaimers. The first one I want to say is if you're in crisis, please call 911 or go to your local emergency center. This video nor podcast nor any other content posted on social media by me creates a relationship for a clinical purpose of any kind whatsoever, period. This information I'm putting out is not designed to address anyone's unique situation or mental health needs whatsoever. Instead, it's general information designed for that purpose, general information, knowledge, education, and that's about it. Okay. If you need anything for your unique situation, please find a licensed clinician in your area to address your unique needs or other appropriate licensed professional if you're in need of that type of assistance. This video is podcast is going to be about physical assault, military sexual trauma, and workplace violence. And I warn you, this is going to be an uncomfortable topic for many people. If you find this disturbing, I suggest you turn off this video or podcast immediately. It's not going to get any lighter from here. I wrote an article and published on February 3rd of 2021. It's on Medium, where I've been publishing articles occasionally for a little while now. I decided to make a video podcast version of this article that I wrote. And I was inspired to write this article for reasons I'm about to tell you. You're not going to find, I don't think, other content like this online which is why I created it. All right, so I'm going to quickly summarize the definition of military sexual trauma as sexual harassment and sexual assault during military service. All right, so there's a much more elaborate definition being given that is not at all brief. They have entire PDF handouts on this online from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. They have their own very involved, very in-depth definition with examples of what they're talking about. Okay. I will tell you that I did not hear the term MST, military sexual trauma, that I can remember until the year 2015. And even then, I did not know what on earth they were talking about. I really didn't know. And I kind of guessed, but I didn't know. And in fact, people that worked at the VA didn't know either. Because the information was just coming out, I guess. But evidently this term has been around for a long time. Like it's been around for a while, but it just started getting attention. It seems like in 2015 is when I started hearing kind of word about it. And since then, it's gotten a lot more attention and a lot more traction, especially in Congress with the politicians. It's been a really hot topic. Okay. Next, I am defining, I have references in my article, and this article will be in the description of this podcast and of this video. So if you want to see the original article, check it out. It's got some references to information that you can scroll down and see at the very bottom of the article. All right. I am defining physical assault as threatening, unwanted physical attack of any kind. This could be involved in some type of military hazing incident, as an example. This is my own definition. I sourced it from myself of basically trying to provide context of what I am thinking when I'm writing this article, and so that people can be on the same page as me, so to speak. Okay. So according to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, quote, workplace violence is any act or threat of physical violence, harassment, intimidation, or other threatening, disruptive behavior that occurs at the work site, end quote. I have the reference at the end of the article for that as well. So the reason I bring that up, and when you look at that definition, I mean, it is really inclusive and really all-encompassing, and that can include many things. That can include potentially verbal abuse. It can include workplace bullying, workplace mobbing, which is like bullying on steroids in a workplace. It's really all-inclusive, that definition. And, OSHA, as with many government regulations, it just seems like, from what I've seen and research and experience firsthand, when it comes to accountability and justice, where it's really needed, it really seems to take place. So I'll just leave it at that. I was inspired to write this article and create the corresponding video and podcast because I was really tired of reading and hearing congressional officials, lawyers, the typical uninformed, uncaring Veterans Affairs government workers, and random people of the internet stating that personal assaults, such as a physical assault or slash and military sexual trauma, are not reported during military service, and thus that's why there are no records properly documenting the incident or incidences. This is false. That is what I would like people to know. Yes, it's true that in unknown number of cases, physical assaults and military sexual traumas or trauma are not reported. Okay, and I say in an unknown number of cases because despite all the numbers and the data coming out, when you're dealing with like workplace violence, harassment, assault, or whatever, you're going to have a lot of underreporting just period in workplaces because these are things that are frequently mishandled. And, you can have serial predators that are being enabled in the workplace by other managers, basically. This happens all the time in organizations, especially the large ones. And where you have rigid hierarchies, whether it be civilian or otherwise, I mean, you're going to see in my observations, experience, and research, more of these types of abuses and situations occurring, okay? And people are scared. People are scared. Bystanders are scared. People that are being victimized are scared of the consequences, to include losing whatever it is that they've worked for in their career if they report and it's mishandled, which frequently it is. All right. This is something I know a lot about. Yes, it's true that in an unknown number of cases, like I was saying, that these incidences, physical assaults and or military sexual traumas are not reported. However, I know as a fact that there are service members that have reported these incidents or incidences to their appropriate chain of command, and then magically there are no records documenting the reports years later. Victims slash survivors may have no idea at the time of the incident that that proper reporting procedures, policies, protocols, etc., are not being followed due to the fact that victims slash survivors are frequently subordinate to the person that they're making the report to. They may have no way of knowing whether or not the correct action or actions are being taken, much less being empowered enough to hold anyone accountable for absolutely anything. So there's so much to say about this because these things, I mean, if I know they can happen in civilian organizations, and I've seen it, and they can happen in the military. Okay. And subordinates may be preyed upon because that they are subordinate, because they are less likely to be empowered enough to be able to hold people accountable, to be able to get any justice. In the civilian world, civil rights laws are very weak in workplace settings. And so it's like they're like Swiss cheese. Like, good luck holding anyone accountable. I mean, good luck. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. It's possible. People do it all the time, okay? But when I really studied case law and civil rights law, it is as it pertains to employment settings in America, the civilian world, it's abysmal, the poor success rates in these cases. And many lawyers don't want to take the cases because they understand that it is very hard to win those cases. Very hard to win those cases. And, there's been some really horrible people saying horrible things that like, oh, if someone doesn't win their case, in court or in one of these government taxpayer shams that they've got running, like the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, that, oh gosh, they must have been lying. No, they're probably telling the truth, actually. But the truth is that the civil rights laws in workplaces in America are like Swiss cheese because they're so weak. There's so many loopholes for Lawyers are sophisticated and savvy to be able to successfully navigate through. So victims/survivors of workplace violence and or harassment or whatever are not able to ever obtain any sort of a justice or accountability whatsoever. All the while, the harassers and offenders and serial predators are being transferred around from one place to the next like it never even happened. And they're being protected by managers and they're being protected by lawyers that are on salary in general counsel offices that will defend anything. That's the truth. Victims/survivors of military sexual trauma and or other physical assaults, attacks in the military are frequently junior enlisted service members with limited military experience. Go do your research, you'll find out this is true yourself. Making it even less feasible for the victims/survivors to know whether or not proper reporting procedures, policies, protocol, etc. are even being followed. Specifically during the years 2008 to 2011, I know that people did report physical assault and military sexual traumas, and that appropriate action was not taken to include but not limited to creating records documenting the reports. Not unless they just magically show up, which I don't think is going to happen. I have come to the conclusion that most people do not understand this concept or this reality. I have also come to the conclusion that the reason that these reported incidences were not properly recorded by the persons in a position of power to create such documentation is due to self-preservation of careers. On a side note, the same type of self-preservation focused behavior from management has been exhibited at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. If no documentation is created, then it is more likely that these incidences can be swept underneath the rug like it never even happened, so to speak. It can then appear that no physical assaults, other types of workplace violence, or military sexual traumas were actually occurring on the watch of the person or persons in charge. I suspect that this may have been viewed as a deeply advantageous option, to protect the careers of the persons in leadership positions. And what amazes me the most about this is not just happening in the military. It's not. It's not. And I don't know what the situation is anymore in the military. I'm just talking about years ago when I was in. Okay. What amazes me the most is that this shit is happening elsewhere. This is happening in the civilian world. This is happening in our government. This is happening in federal agencies. This is happening at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. This is happening. This is what I wish congressional officials, lawyers, the typical uninformed, uncaring Veterans Affairs government workers, and random people of the internet would know and would openly discuss, because this is the reality. There are people that did report. Unfortunately, the person or persons in charge may have intentionally chosen not to create records properly documenting the reports. So, just something to think about. These are the references that I mentioned. There's some really interesting information out there. There's a couple of law firms that specialize in veteran-related issues and news that I've found particularly interesting. One's called Hill and Ponton, and the other one is another law firm that I actually forgot the name of already. I mean, I kind of know it, but I don't want to say it if I don't know it 100%. And so they have a couple of really good articles, and they have some videos as well that talk about this topic and really spell it out. And then there's some other information here as well you may want to check out, to include the OSHA website about workplace violence. And then, of course, disclaimer and crisis hotlines. My overall thoughts about all of this are just that, there's so much conflict of interest positions for managers, executives, leaders. I use that word loosely. Leaders. When they're able to investigate themselves, and even inside of our own government. I used to work at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, unfortunately for me. There's this thing called Office of Resolution Management, and they're supposed to investigate certain alleged allegations of misconduct in the workplace. And my experience was that they worked really hard to help cover those things up. and bury people in paperwork that are bringing forth legitimate complaints. And, these bureaucracies is what I call them, um, like the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission or the Merit System Protection Board, the Office of Special Counsel, or, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're lucky. But you can start Googling these things. But they're really highly politicized organizations that are taxpayer funded, and they're supposed to help keep the government honest in like the federal agencies and help victims and survivors of different really harrowing work experiences. I mean, it just really runs the gamut. They all of the different agencies I mentioned have different jurisdictions of like what they legally can do and stuff like that. But I just know firsthand that they're pretty ineffective for the large volume of people that need the help the most in years past, in my experience, and even in some cases in recent years. Um, and it just seems like it takes massive action from Congress to really affect change. And so that's why I think the US Department of Veterans Affairs in some ways appears to, but I'm very skeptical of, improved some of their service provision to military community members like myself. But I mean, that's like a whole other topic for another day, honestly. And I do plan on doing many videos about the US Department of Veterans Affairs because unfortunately for me, they've basically been the bane of my existence since I got out of the Army back in 2012. And I just would like to think that will change, but I'm not holding my breath. And, who knows what the future will hold for me and the U.S. Department of Veterans, as it pertains to U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. I just hope that they stay out of my life as much as possible. Okay, I hope you have a great day. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it'll help more people discover it. If you want to hear me go berserk about the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and related topics, then just click that subscribe button because let me tell you, those videos and podcasts are coming soon. I have to pace myself. I only have so much time and energy, but they're coming one of these days. All right. I wish you the best. Bye.